And you're saying if it's at the cost of men, that's a problem.
Oh, there's all sorts of things that it could be at the cost of. It could even be at the cost of women's own interests. So
because they might not be happy if they get equal pay.
No, because it might interfere with other things that are causing the pay gap that women are choosing to do.
Like having children.
Well, or choosing careers that actually happen to be paid less, which women do a lot of.
All right, hi everybody. Welcome back to the second half of this video. Someone sends a clip of Jordan Peterson. Okay, anyways, we're going to play this video.
I want to put to you that here in the UK, for example, let's take that as an example, the gender pay gap stands at just over 9%. You've got women at the BBC recently saying that the broadcaster is illegally paying them less than men to do the same job. You've got only 7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies.
Yeah.
So it seems to a lot of women that they're still being dominated and excluded, to quote your words back to you.
It does seem that way, but multivariate analysis of the pay gap indicate that it doesn't exist.
But that's just not true, is it?
That's
I mean, that
absolutely
9% pay gap, that's a gap between median hourly earnings between men and women.
But there's
that exists.
Yeah, but there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is gender, but it's not the only reason. Like if you're a social scientist worth your salt, you never do a univariate analysis. Like you say, well, women in aggregate are paid less than men. Okay, well, then we break it down by age, we break it down by occupation, we break it down by interest, we break it down by personality.
But you're saying basically it doesn't matter if women aren't getting to the top, because that's what's skewing that gender pay gap, isn't it? You're saying, well, that's just a fact of life. Women aren't necessarily going to get to the top.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter either.
You're saying
I'm saying there are multiple reasons for it.
Yeah, but those reasons, why should women put up with those reasons? Why should women be content
I'm not
not
saying
to
that
get
they
to the
should
top?
put up with it. I'm saying that the claim that the wage gap between men and women is only due to sex is wrong. And it is wrong. There's no doubt about that. The multivariate analysis have been done. So I can give you an example.
You keep on talking about multivariate analysis.
Let me give you an example.
Real quick. So she's combative. Because he's making some points.
Yeah. So the gender wage gap is a myth simply because when they did the the analysis on why women make less, what they did was they took how much women as a whole make versus men as a whole. But what they didn't do is dive into why that is. And the truth is that there are a lot of jobs women don't want to do that pay a lot that men do. That men are much more likely to work with no days off. Mm-hmm. Men are more likely to work overtime and more days. Men are much more likely to do, especially in academia, things that have to do with mathematics, things that would pay you more. You know what I mean?
What she's doing though is that she's only focusing on that 9%.
Well, that's what all feminists do. They focused on that 9% because that's their home, because then it makes sense. But Thomas Sowell said, and I think it's in 1970, I think it was like 1978, he did a debate with a white woman that was talking about the same issue. Mm-hmm. And he said no. She was like, you would agree that the wage gap is going. He said, no, I will not agree. He said, because if you take a woman that goes from college all the way to the age of 40, basically, and works just as hard as a man and doesn't matter, he said, I find that the income is exactly the same, as sometimes women have a little bit more of an advantage. He said the problem with the gender wage gap isn't about women, it's about married women versus everyone else.
Right.
Because once you get married, everything changes, especially if you add children.
Yeah.
Saying that 9% pay gap exists. Yeah. That's a gap between men and women. I'm not saying why it exists, but it exists.
But you should.
Now, if you're a woman, that seems pretty unfair.
You have to say why it exists.
Yeah.
But do you agree that it's unfair? If you're a woman...
Not necessarily.
And on average, you're getting paid 9% less than a man. That's not fair, is it?
It depends on why it's happening. I can give you an example. Okay. There's a personality trait known as agreeableness. Agreeable people are compassionate and polite. And agreeable people get paid less than less agreeable people for the same job. Women are more agreeable than men.
Again, a vast generalization.
This is an inconvenient truth that women don't want to hear. That we are more agreeable. So we don't necessarily go after all the time. We don't go after the raise. Mm-hmm. Most men will.
Well, I mean, she's doing her job as a feminist. She's pushing what she's doing is she's baiting him.
Yeah.
She's baiting him to make him look like a misogynist. You know what I mean? And he's a sexist. She's trying to do
And she's
that.
leading him too. She's
and
like,
she doesn't
don't
want to talk about the
you?
details because the details will reveal
Yeah.
everything. But it is her job to put pressure on him
Yeah.
this way and to make him get into his feelings, which is what to his point right now is women are more agreeable. Men don't get in their feelings as quick as women do. He's actually triggering her.
Yeah.
And she's supposed to be triggering him. But because she's a woman, she's in her feelings a lot quicker, and he's just Jordan.
Some
It's
women
not
are
a
not more
generalization.
agreeable than
Yes,
men.
that's true. But that's right. And some women get paid more than men.
So you were saying that by and large, women are too agreeable to get the pay rises they deserve.
No, I'm saying that that's one component of a multivariate equation that predicts salary. It accounts for maybe 5% of the variance, something like that.
So surely
you
the
need about
answer-
another 20, you need about another 18 factors, one of which is gender. And there is prejudice, there's no doubt about that, but it accounts for a much smaller proportion of the variance in the pay gap than the radical feminists claim.
Okay, so rather than denying the pay gap exists, which is what you did at the beginning of this conversation, shouldn't you say to women, rather than being agreeable and not asking for a pay rise, go and ask for a pay rise? Make yourself disagreeable with your boss.
Oh, definitely, there's that. But I also didn't deny it existed. I denied it existed because of gender.
Okay.
See, because I'm very, very, very careful with my words.
So the pay gap exists, you accept that, but you're saying, I mean, the pay gap between men and women exists, but you're saying it's not because of gender, it's because women are too agreeable to ask for pay rises. So
It's one of the reasons.
Okay, one of the reasons. So why not get them to ask for a pay rise?
I've
Wouldn't
done
that be
that.
a fairer
I've done
way of
that
proceeding?
many, many times in my career.
And they just
I've
don't.
counseled. Oh, they do it all the time. You can. So one of the things that you do as a clinical psychologist is assertiveness training. So you might say, often you treat people for anxiety, you treat them for depression, and maybe the next most common category after that would be assertiveness training. And so I've had many, many women, extraordinarily competent women, in my clinical and consulting practice, and we put together strategies for their career development that involve continual pushing, competing for higher wages, and often tripled their wages within a 5-year period, teaching
you
them how to
celebrate that?
negotiate. Of course.
So
Of
do
course.
you agree that you would be happy if that pay gap was eliminated completely?
It
Because
would
that's all
depend.
the radical feminists are saying.
It would depend on how it was eradicated and how the disappearance of it was measured.
And you're
These
saying if
things
it's at the
you
cost
can't-
of men, that's a problem.
Oh, there's all sorts of things that it could be at the cost of. It could even be at the cost of women's own interests. So,
Because they might not be happy if they get equal pay.
no, because it might interfere with other things that are causing the pay gap that women are choosing to do.
Like having
Well,
children.
Well, or choosing careers that actually happen to be paid less, which women do a lot of.
But why shouldn't women have the right to choose not to have children or the right to choose those demanding careers?
They do. They can. Yeah, that's fine.
But you're saying that makes them unhappy, by and large.
I'm saying that no, I'm not saying that. I actually haven't said that so far. in
You're
the
saying
program.
it makes them miserable.
No, I
at the
said that
beginning.
what was making them miserable was having.
I feel like Jordan's stance on this is more of like he's saying something that maybe a woman doesn't want to hear. That there's going to be the introduction of children, and women have a small window, right? Men don't when it comes to having children, right? Have a small window. So there's that moment in a woman's life where she's like, career, family. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. So a lot of times women will go the family route because they have kids.
She's a feminist.
You're right.
She's a feminist, and she's got to do her job to defend feminism.
Yeah.
Her job is to make him be sexist.
Yeah.
And so she's getting to the because women choose to have children, because
yeah.
that's where she wants him to say, yeah, because women have. Well, why can't women have it all? Because people can't have it all.
Yeah.
That's just true. But that's her job, and he's seeing that she's doing that. He's baiting her. And by the way, backstory, he told Joe Rogan that before this interview happened, she was a completely different person.
Yeah, completely different person,
She
y'all.
completely switched the instant the cameras came on. So, this is on purpose. This is she's a feminist. This is her agenda to try to make it look like things are unfair, and she's probably got millions of dollars because she's a reporter in the UK. So it's always these women that have made it.
Yeah, it's true.
That want to make everyone else because they have to demonize men. That's the reason why I don't like feminism, is because they don't want to say they just want to be successful and go to work. They have to demonize men to do it. And that to me is weak.
Yeah. It is.
having weak partners. That makes them miserable.
Right.
I would say that many women around the age of, I would say between 28 and 32, have a career family crisis that they have to deal with. And I think that's partly because of the foreshortened time frame that women have to contend with. Like, women have to get the major pieces of their life put together faster than men, which is also partly why men aren't under so much pressure to grow up. So because for the typical woman, she has to have her career and family in order pretty much by the time she's 35. Because otherwise the options start to run out. And so that puts a tremendous amount of stress on women, especially at the end of their 20s.
I think I take issue with the idea of the typical woman because, you know, all women are different. And that's what I want to just put another quote to you from the book.
Well,
You
they're
say,
different in some ways and the same in others.
Okay, you say women become more vulnerable when they have children.
Oh,
And
yes.
you talked in one of your YouTube interviews about crazy harpy sisters. So, simple question. Is gender equality a myth in your view? Is that something that's just never going to happen?
It depends on what you mean by equality. No,
Being
if
treated
you mean
fairly,
men and women,
getting the same opportunities?
Yeah, fewer opportunities.
fairly, we could get to a point where people were treated fairly or more fairly. I mean, people are treated pretty fairly in Western culture already, but we can
Well, they're
improve
really
that.
not, though, are they? I mean, otherwise, why
depends.
would there only be 7 women running FTSE 100 companies in the UK? Why would there still be a pay gap, which we've
Oh, well,
discussed
that's
at
easy.
length?
It's easy to
Why are
answer
women
that
at the
question.
BBC saying that they're getting paid illegally less than men to do the same job?
Well,
That's not fair, is
let's
it?
go to the first question. Those are complicated questions. Seven women, repeat that one. There's
7
only
women running the top FTSE 100 companies in the UK.
Okay. Well, the
I mean,
first
that's not
question
fair.
might be, why would you want to do that?
Why would a man want to do it?
True.
I mean, there's a lot of money, it's an interesting
There's a
job,
certain
you know?
number of men, although not that many, who are perfectly willing to sacrifice virtually all of their life to the pursuit of a high-end career. So they'll work. These are men that are very intelligent.
Sorry. Facts. There are not going to be women who are going to want to work like a man. And I feel like she's talking about this Fortune 500 situation. It's 7 women and blah, blah, blah. Why do you, like he said, why do you think that is? Because women really don't want to work like that. It's a lot to have to do what a man is doing.
The question, though, isn't why aren't there a lot of women in Fortune 500 companies? The question should be to him, or he should ask her, is why doesn't every woman want to be Oprah?
Yeah. Which is essentially, I think, what
Because
he's about
Oprah
to-
gave up all of that to be successful.
Yeah.
And so the question to her would be, well, if you're worried about that, why don't you ask women, why do they just give up give up everything and just become Oprah?
Yeah.
Why aren't more women like Oprah?
Remember,
Because more women don't really want that life.
that means you can't have kids, or if you do have them, you won't see them.
Oprah said she will not have children.
She didn't want to
She
choose.
had to have children. She'd have to choose over business and raising children. She didn't want to raise children. She liked her business more.
She said she can't do both well.
Right.
That's what she said. She can't do both well, so she chose one, and she chose her career.
They're usually very, very conscientious. They're very driven. They're very high energy. They're very healthy. And they're willing to work 70 or 80 hours a week, nonstop, specialized at one thing to get to the top.
So you're saying women are just more sensible. They don't want that because it's not a nice life.
I'm saying that's part of it, definitely. And so I work
So
for...
you don't think there are barriers in their way that prevent them getting to the top
Oh,
of
there
those
are some
companies?
barriers, yeah, like men, for example. I mean, to get to the top of any organization is an incredibly competitive enterprise. And the men that you're competing with are simply not going to roll over and say, please take the position.
So let me come back to my
absolute
question.
all-out warfare.
Is gender equality a myth?
I don't know what you mean by the question. Men and women aren't the same, and they won't be the same. That doesn't mean they can't be treated fairly.
Is gender equality...
Men and women are not the same. If we can just...
I mean, what she's asking for is
not the same.
What she's asking for is affirmative action for women.
That's what she's actually
saying that it doesn't matter what a woman's abilities are.
And
no
start
matter how
being
hard,
there.
like he's talking about these men who are willing to work 70, 80 hours a week without sleep and give up their whole fatherhood and give up all of that and focus on one thing. And it's very competitive that these men are willing to give up all of that for business. Right. So what she's saying is, well, because women want to have kids and because why don't we just affirmative action women and leapfrog over all these men who have worked hard so that women, so that the opportunity of, so the the outcome
Yeah.
can match. And that's not fair.
It's not
you
fair,
only,
and it's not.
You can only get opportunities.
Yeah.
Because even men are not the same. Some men work harder than other men. Some men are more. Some men are just more driven than other men. So when they talk about the difference between men and women, yes, we're differently in the things that we want. But even when you group all women together, we're very different. You know what I mean? Men, when they're in their, because since we're talking about men moving, men as a whole are driven differently.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a man who wants to work, 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, or a man who wants to be, a Jay-Z. There's a big difference in those types of mentalities.
Right.
And so what she's saying is, we don't do that for men. So, but we'll do it for women. So let's let a woman, so we can make the outcome right.
Yeah.
Just leapfrog, let her have her kids and everything. She doesn't have to do as much work in that area. She just gets to skip the line because she's a woman.
Yeah.
And that's affirmative action. That it's wrong.
She's looking for equality with men and women, and like you said, men and women are not equal, in more ways than one. We're just not equal.
Right.
We don't think the same. We don't work the same. We're not the same. So where feminists go wrong is they don't get that point.
Right. I mean, she is looking for equality of outcome, and that's
Yeah.
impossible for even
It is.
men. That's
Yeah.
not even possible. Even the most driven men are going to end up.
Right.
A whole bunch of guys can play basketball really good, but not all of them are going to make the NBA.
Right. It's true.
Desirable.
If it means equality of outcome, then almost certainly it's undesirable. That's already been demonstrated in Scandinavia. Because in
What do
Scandinavia,
you mean by that? Equality of outcome is undesirable.
well, men and women won't sort themselves into the same categories if you leave them alone to do it of their own accord. I've already seen that in Scandinavia. It's 20 to 1 female nurses to male, something like that. It might not be quite that extreme, and approximately the same male engineers to female engineers. And that's a consequence of the free choice of men and women in the societies that have gone farther than any other societies to make gender equality the purpose of the law. Those are ineradicable differences. You can eradicate them with tremendous social pressure and tyranny, but if you leave men and women to make their own choices, you will not get equal outcomes.
Right, so you're saying that anyone who believes in equality, whether you call them feminists, call them whatever you want to call them, should basically give up because it ain't going to happen.
Only if they're aiming at equality of outcome.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're saying
I stumped her a bit.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Equality of
Outcome,
opportunity,
yeah.
any logical person would say that was correct. Women should have the same opportunities as men. You know what I mean? That's not the problem. But the equality of outcome is the problem. Because like I said, even men don't measure up the same in their own demographic.
So add a woman in there.
Right.
That's definitely going to be.
So like you were saying about the nurses, most women are nurses. Most women are nurses. Most construction workers are men. It's really just like what he's going to say about Scandinavia is that they have the most liberal system where it's very, very equal. But when you leave people when you give people their equality, which is why that's good to do, when you give people equality, the women go without anybody forcing anything on them. Women go to their femininity, and men go to their masculinity on their own.
The jobs that we take are in kind of inherent, kind of they're nurturing jobs. So teachers, nurses, these types of jobs, psychiatrists even. So these kind of jobs like that where it's not as like men will do hard labor jobs.
Right.
Jobs that really take some,
like coal miners.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of women that are coal miners.
Men, the infrastructure of this world, every country really is built on the backs of men.
Yeah.
And so I don't like when, I think I would assume she's this type of woman. I don't like when women do not acknowledge that fact, that women are not going to, nor are they willing to do the jobs that men do. And then complain they're not getting paid the same amount.
Most women want to be teachers.
Right.
And most women are teachers. Because the question would be also, well, how come then are there not a lot of male teachers, but there are a whole bunch of women teachers?
Well,
that's sexist, right? Because the opportunity of outcome should be that there should be 50% male teachers. And well, why? Because men aren't teachers. Men don't go for that teachers as much as women do, because women like to deal with children.
Yeah, it's a nurturing job, teaching. So it's not, for women it's just a natural go-to.
people equality of opportunity, that's fine.
It's not only fine, it's eminently desirable for everyone, for individuals and for society.
But still women aren't going to make it. That's what you're really saying.
It depends on your measurement techniques. They're doing just fine in medicine. In fact, there are far more female physicians than there are male physicians. There are lots of disciplines that are absolutely dominated by women.
Women is not one to factor in that there are jobs that they're simply just not going to do. Gender, to me, makes a big difference when it comes to jobs. Because as he was saying, that we do pick jobs that are more nurturing.
Just like I was saying about, it's like even in our own election, when on the Democratic pool, this last time we had Tulsi Gabbard, Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, and Kamala Harris. None of them broke 10%.
Yeah.
That means that most women won't even vote for women.
Right.
But is that wrong because we haven't had a woman president because women won't vote for women? But Hillary Clinton would tell you that. She would say it's because she's a woman that she didn't get this. But she's not factoring the fact that Donald Trump won the woman vote.
Right.
So it's just like the WNBA. How come we're not getting paid a lot? Well, because women aren't going to see you. Women aren't going to the WNBA games, but they are going to the NBA games. Because women want to be in male spaces. Yeah. So it's just like
in business, you need results.
Right.
And so
So that's what I'm saying. The wage gap is just as much our fault it's probably more our fault because of our own biology that keeps us from wanting to do certain things that men just inherently want to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. That's why when I hear Megan Rapinoe and them talking about women's sports and how it's not fair that women don't make a lot of money. I was like, right, but no one's watching women's soccer. So how can you ask, David Beckham, how can you ask people, how can you be mad at David Beckham because he's a millionaire? Yeah. Because everybody's watching. But what also goes with people watching those games is also advertisement, because the advertisers come in and make these people actually rich. This is why Serena Williams is, because she made people look at her. And she has advertisement and she has other stuff that goes along with it. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with just being the president. If you want to be a man, you have to sacrifice womanhood. And a lot of women don't want to do that. And I understand that. It's who wants to not do the things that God intended us to do and miss out on that.
It feels like a lot of women don't want to admit that part. See, I think that's the part because it makes them feel like we're pushing them, like you're getting pushed back in the 50s mentality. And again, so women don't want they don't want to have that. They don't want to admit that part only because of the fact that that's admitting that you want to be a woman. That's admitting that you want what women want, which is family.
But again, I go back to the fact that the reason why women do feel like that because of women like her, but it's also because celebrity culture has taught women that you can do that.
You can do it all. You can do it all.
What is that? Everybody wants to build an empire like Jay-Z and Beyonce. Right. She did it. She got to have kids, and she got to be very wealthy and have a lot of money. So, okay. But do you really, when people say that they want it all, I think do you really know what that entails? If you get it all, will you be happy? Because a lot of these people who do get it all aren't happy anymore. Because
I was watching this clip of Tom Cruise, and he was talking about his work ethic, right? And he was saying, I work 7 days a week. I wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning every morning. He's done it for decades. He's like, and I work every day. I work hard. I love work. So it's just the mentality of a man is not that of a woman. So there's not too many women that you're going to hear say, I want to work 7 days a week. And it's nonstop. I'm always trying to get the next bigger, better thing. You don't really hear women talk like that. But it's like, I feel like feminist women they don't want to factor in that very real fact. They want to focus on that number. Is that number they want to focus on, but they don't, like Jordan was saying, they don't want to focus on why that number is what it is.
This whole idea that I don't know. See, that's the thing about feminism. I don't know what the goal is. What are you trying to do?
Yeah, what's the point?
What's the goal? Well, you just don't want to be a woman?
Yeah.
You want men to you want to see if they can make science can make men get pregnant real quick?
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen.
You just can't be a man.
It's
like
weird.
You can't be a man. It's a very strange time.
And you sit here and play mental gymnastics all the time of how you can belittle men and make yourself better. And we've done all this, and we do this, and we do this, and we're the real heroes. And it's herstory, and the future's her, and all of this stuff. And we just keep going on and on. I was like, what are you talking about?
This mentality really happened fast because when you guys think about it. like the 1940s, 50s woman. It wasn't too long ago. It's not like that. We're talking about centuries ago. This wasn't too long ago. 1940s, 50s, 60s type.
Our great-great-grandparents.
Yeah,
Great-grandparents.
and I feel like look at what's happened from that point to this point, where women are, you know, these kind of like domineering, demanding, I want to be equal and all this kind of stuff. When you look at the women back in that time, they were all, you know, I won't say all, but, you know, majority of them were all at least on the same page when it came to what their role was in this world. And I feel like we've now gone to this another level, like 50 more levels, where it's like, we are you. We are men now, and we can do everything that you can do. And you know, that's not true. We cannot do everything that men can do. I know you think you can. Because the world, like Kara was saying, is making you feel like you can, right? You got to know who runs the world, girl. You know, we have all this validation to make you believe that you can, but you can't. It's not a thing.
We're not. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like we are not like men.
If you're in your 20s right now, and you're in that late, you know, that late 20s, it is like, I agree with Jordan, it is kind of decision time.
And but see, that's
he said 28 to 32.
He's telling you that, but feminists don't tell women that.
Right.
They're not telling women that there is this biological clock that we have that we have to try to beat. You know what I mean? And so you have to. You're your most fertile, I think, between the ages. I think at 35 is when you become you know, your eggs start to, you know, diminish. But the point is just like, they don't tell these women this, and then these women who are in their child like bearing years, or they're like more potent years, they're having a hard time getting pregnant because they're trying to beat the system. They're trying to think that they can actually do it. You know why? Because every celebrity did it. But if you look closely at a lot of these celebrities, Beyonce had problems getting pregnant. So did Mariah Carey. So did Chloe and Kim. All of these women have, all the YouTube stars, girls, all of them.
They tell you their stories.
Because when you are in business, it takes a lot out of you. Then when you're also trying to have a child, that's a whole nother type of physical.
Can you imagine the stress of trying to be a CEO and also trying to be this very successful woman on top of the world, making tons and tons of money, right? And then also want to have an entire family. It's like the stress. I can't even imagine the mental gymnastics you have to do to sort that out.
Like even like with Kevin Samuels and like a Jordan Peterson, they come with data and facts.
That's scary.
That's scary.
For the
you know what I mean? But that's what's needed to be said. Yeah. So to me, when I see people like this, and when I look at like the Black conservative perspective guy, and he's a younger man, you know, Brandon Tatum. These are men who are Black males, ABL, Jericho Green. These men are just men who are men. They're not like CEOs, or they're just regular guys,
and they do not
cops,
and they don't apologize for it,
and they don't apologize for that, and God bless them.
Yeah. And thank you guys for subscribing. We really appreciate that. It was a nice surprise to see that we got, you know, some an increase there.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost at 2,000.
I know.
I mean, can you imagine? Daniel and I have been doing this for like 3 years.
Y'all
you know what I mean? We have been hidden. We said one time, I said we prefer to stay hidden until we're found.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I know you guys, because you guys said in the comments that you were sharing and letting people know. So we really do thank you for that, because it's hard. This YouTube game is not easy. I mean,
be up here. Sometimes it's hard, especially when you're a conservative woman, traditional.
Black.
You know, y'all don't understand. It'd be, and then shout out to the 5 women that understand what we're saying. Because we have like,
sometimes we get sprinkles of women.
Whenever we get a woman that comes in there, a Black woman,
yeah,
it's like
a jewel.
Woo, and she's like, I totally agree with you. I'm like, what? Hold the phone. But yeah, shout out to those women. You know, they're doing that. So yeah,
and,
but
you know, I mean, I think it's nice to just have a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's the point, I think, of content. It's just that it's different perspectives. And so it's not. I think it's nice to hear other people talk. Yeah. Like I said, I love YouTube. I think it's fun, you know.
We read all the comments, so please leave some comments below. We love to hear your thoughts. You know, we learn from people all the time. So that's it. Everybody have a really good weekend, and we will see you later. Bye.